And we are live. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this Wednesday night with Live Viviana live stream. Tonight's topic is top tips on how to break into IT industry. Again, thank you so much for finding some time joining us this evening for live discussion. Please make sure to introduce yourselves in the comments. Let us know what you do and join our conversation with your comments and questions. It's pretty miserable day in Melbourne today, raining. So I'm expecting that a few of you will join because that's what's happening. Then the weather is not nice. So yeah, but please make sure to introduce yourself in the comments because we want to know who's here with us tonight. So if you're new to my live show, I'm Jana Martins, and I've recently started my journey as IT recruiter. So hence, I've started a new YouTube channel dedicated to IT career in Australia. So tonight, we're going to talk about top tips on how to break into IT industry. And Selena is going to share her journey. As you know, 5 years ago, she was managing a restaurant and had no idea how to write a code. But now she's a head of delivery and fresher. So it's an incredibly inspiring story tonight. So make sure to tune in, give us a like, and tag or share this video with your colleagues and friends who need to hear this information. So before I'll pass it on to Selena to introduce herself, I just want to quickly remind you we are going live tonight on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. To watch the replays, the easiest way is to subscribe to my YouTube channel, IT Career in Australia, where I'm going live every Wednesday, 5:30 p.m. Melbourne time, with various experts from my network. And we're talking about all the things around IT career, job search, and specifics of IT industry in Australia. So you can also join my meetup group to make sure you get notifications for upcoming events and discussions. Maybe who knows, one day we can meet in the real life as well and start doing some live events as well. So make sure to join meetup group as well if you can. And of course, please make sure you ask as many questions as you want in any platform. And the most active participants will also receive a nice surprise at the end of the stream. So that's enough of me. So make sure, I guess, to introduce yourself. Jason asking what chat is monitored the most. Doesn't matter. So you can ask questions on YouTube or LinkedIn. Doesn't matter. Just put your questions in the comments. So Selena, please tell us about yourself a bit.
Hi, thanks, Jana. It's really nice to meet you. Really nice to be here today as well. My name's Selena, obviously. I am currently the head of delivery for network growth at Fresho, Melbourne-based startup in the fresh food industry. And I'm also a professional kickboxer. So I'm the current Victorian state champion at 53.5 kilos. And why is that interesting? Because we're about to talk about top tips on how to break into the IT industry. And my story about the way that I did it kind of goes hand in hand with my kickboxing career as well. So 5 years ago, not only did I not know how to write code, I had never thrown a punch in my life.
There we go. And that's why we picked this title for this live stream as well, Break Into. So literally breaking into IT industry tonight. So Selena, I guess first tell us a little bit about what you do at the moment before we, start uncovering your journey. Just basically give us a quick idea what you do at Freshco at the moment.
Yeah, sure. So I'm an engineer at Fresho. Fresho is actually kind of at a scale-up stage at the moment. So we were for a long time, a team of 8 developers, and we've recently kind of increased the number of devs and broken out into smaller teams as well. So this role, head of delivery, for me is actually really new. I'm about 3 weeks into the role, and the whole point of it is to figure out, understand, come up with a game plan for network growth for the company, and also to grow a team from scratch. So I'm kind of the first person. I have my first developer joining us very soon, and we'll be gradually building out the team from there.
Perfect. And I guess tell us a little bit about your hidden talent as well. You mentioned that you're also a kickboxing champion. So how that's happened?
Yeah, well,
I think I have even like a visual here. Here we go.
yeah, that's one there. So the sport that I do is called Muay Thai. It's a type of kickboxing. Although, I'm not opposed to K1 or anything else. I just really like the Muay Thai because it's the art of 8 limbs. So we throw kicks, knees, elbows, punches, and also a little bit of grappling as well. Um, no headbutts. That's the neighbours from Lithway. Um, but yeah, it's really fun. It's a great sport. I love it.
Perfect. And so you mentioned you started it less than 5 years ago as well.
Yeah, so I actually started Muay Thai and coding at about the same time, so within around 3 months of each other. And what basically happened was I kind of had a big change in my life. I flipped things around and started doing things that I really wanted to be doing, which was the kickboxing and the coding. Before that, I was running a late night bar. I've been running a late night bar for about 4 years, and it's the kind of bar that's open till 6 or 7 in the morning, 5 nights a week. There's a lot of drinking. Um, there's not much, obviously, sleep during nighttime hours. It's all daytime sleep, which isn't as good for you. There's a lot of obviously dealing with really heavily intoxicated people, really quite toxic people, actually. And so your whole life, you're awake at night and sleep during the day. So you're like a vampire. Um, and it was just a really unhealthy lifestyle. And eventually I'd had enough of it uh, and turned it around. And I decided, well, do you know what? I don't want to be doing that anymore. I I actually want to be kickboxing and I want to be coding.
Now I understand your passion for kickboxing, dealing with intoxicated people. I would definitely choose kickboxing as well.
Well, yeah. uh, dealing with those kind of people that often, makes it really, really hard for you to want to deal with people at all. So it's kind of interesting now. I work in a place where I'm pairing all the time, so I'm actually constantly working with another person. Definitely, if you told me that 5 years ago, I wouldn't have believed you.
And I think Michael already have first question for you regarding this. How did your past experience in hospitality and fighting help you in developing as a developer? I guess our whole live stream is about it. So, Selena, please tell us the story. So 5 years ago, you decided to make this change. So where did you start?
Yeah, well, so I started. Where did I start? So when I was running the late night bar that I mentioned, the time I decided I wanted to pack that in, I really didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. I had no idea. And one of my best regulars at the time, uh, really good guy named Tom Tully, um, he introduced me to this idea of coding that I'd never heard of before. I had no idea about. I didn't even own a computer at the time. And he introduced me to some basic concepts, and I just fell in love with it. I just decided, yeah, this is what I want to do. And the thing that I loved was it was all about problem solving, uh, which is just, I don't know, it's just something that I've always been interested in since I was a little kid. I was kind of that nerdy kid that sat in the corner doing puzzles while all the other kids were outside playing. Um, and as soon as I started, I just couldn't stop. He introduced me to some basic concepts, and I I ran with it. I went off and I taught myself to code, and I started looking up things online. Uh, the work in the hospitality really helped because it gave me a lot of ideas of things that I could build or small projects that I could work on. And so when you kind of have a project of your own, um, it gives you motivation to keep trying to learn more, to try and make it better and try and understand what you need to do. Um, right? You've had your own projects as well, Yana, and on the side, your own business. And when you've got
Yes.
something that you're passionate about and you're interested in, it really helps you to drive forward with that and learn all the little bits that you need to figure out.
And I guess, I think a lot of people would have this question in mind. You decide to, pursue career as a software developer, start coding. And have you done any like courses, so you mentioned you teach, taught yourself to code, but, I guess a lot of people would think like, okay, so I want to be a developer. I go do like, bachelor in informational technology or something, or I go join the boot camp. So what was driven like your decision? How did you go about teaching yourself?
Yeah, so I didn't do any courses. I didn't do uni or anything like that. When I was at uni, I was studying landscape architecture and I didn't finish the degree. I decided I didn't actually enjoy that. And certainly when I came up with this idea of learning more about coding, I didn't want to go back to uni. I didn't see, well, I suppose Tom kind of convinced me a little bit that there was no real need to go to uni, no real need to go off and do these courses, because you could learn it all fairly simply, by researching and looking in the right places. And I suppose I was a little bit lucky, because Tom was able to point me in the right places to get started. So he sent me off on sort of scavenger hunts to find out about linked lists and von Neumann architecture and, um, traversing binary trees and all this kind of stuff that you do actually learn at uni. But we quite quickly progressed onto, actually writing some code. And once we kind of had the basics down, like I said, it was all about having that project, that side project. And so what I wanted to do was build an online reservation system. Obviously, I should have done it because those are really big now. But at the time, I didn't know how to. But at the time, I didn't know how to write code. And so I thought I had this idea in my mind that I could do a better job than all these kind of reservation systems that we were trying to use. Um, but I just didn't know how to write the code. And so having that project and also having people like Tom around at the time, helped keep me motivated and helped keep me on track. And just having somebody to talk to say, hey, I found out this cool new thing, and they go, wow, that's awesome. You should explore more, or you should look at this other thing. Really helped to keep that motivation there and keep going and dig a little bit deeper every time.
And I'm totally agree how important is having this real life project, because I think like even like as the recruiters, when we talk with like a junior developers, it's always so inspiring that they can give you like a real life problem that they solved. Maybe they work in calls during the like uni or something, but they like got excited about like, I don't know, stock taking or something, and like did some side project where they like solved that problem. And it's like it's definitely something that like so valuable than starting with anything, like you starting with any career, like actually showing this like passion, and that you trying to apply your skills even if you don't have a like real job yet.
Yeah, absolutely. And being able to show off those skills, that's kind of second to none. So when it comes to putting together your CV, yeah, maybe you have a degree, in IT, or maybe you've done a boot camp, but that's some letters on a piece of paper. Show us what you can do with it. Show the employers what you can do with it, because that's gonna put you to the front of the line.
Jason is asking, how's Tom? did he work at pressure at the time?
No, no, this is a while ago now. This is back in New Zealand. Tom Cully he's never worked at Fresho. I'm not Fresho must have been really new at the time. I certainly wasn't working at Fresho then either. Um, Tom was a cloud architect. He's worked around a whole bunch of different places, but he's based in Wellington, New Zealand, not Fresho.
Go. And I have another question on YouTube, but we just touch on this. How do you demonstrate your ability when looking for a job if you don't have a formal degree or bootcamp certification, like a portfolio?
Yeah, so anything that's digital, online, something that you can show off your code, show off your skills. So what I did was I had a few different things. So I had my my online reservation system that I was working on. So it gives me kind of a talking point, and people can see that I am passionate and I'm interested. I also had, a blog. So I started out writing a blog originally on WordPress.org, and then I figured out that you can build your own WordPress theme. So I built a theme for my blog and I moved all my blogs across to that. And then I started hosting my blog on AWS. So I got some experience with the continuous delivery pipeline. And then at the time, I was using the 1 year free tier. My free tier ran out. So I moved my whole blog over to Hugo, which is a static site generator. So then I deployed it onto something else called Netlify. So then I was able to show that I had this range of experience with all these different technologies. I had built a theme. I had deployed to AWS EC2 instance. I had then taken the same thing and deployed to Netlify, which is something else. So I understand a little bit about deployment pipelines. The other thing that I had as well on my CV was I was also AWS certified, which I never bothered to recertify after I was employed. It was just a way to, I suppose, show people in the industry that I have skills which are relevant to what they're doing today, versus maybe something that I learned at uni 4 years ago, which nobody does anymore.
Yeah, I guess you have like a few things here that you're mentioning in terms of gaining credibility. Starting a blog, work on side project, freelance, upskill, digital portfolio. So did you create one as well?
I did not create a digital portfolio. This was probably, I suppose my blog was kind of also doubled as a digital portfolio. The advice that I was actually given at the time, so things might have changed now, but 5 years ago, was to make your CV as easily accessible to everyone as possible. So quite often they'll go through, recruiters or HR departments, and making it as easily accessible by putting it in kind of like a PDF format, or having a Word option as well that's like a .doc instead of a .docx, where people with kind of older machines or older setups or non-developers would be able to also easily access your information was quite vital.
Definitely. I think Jason, like everyone just keep asking questions. We didn't even get to, the points yet. Jason's asking, which level of AWS certification did you get up to? I think you just answered. Yeah.
Well, I kind of answered, but not really. So with the AWS certification, for me personally, that was actually a huge big struggle. So one of the things I tried a couple of times to get was AWS certified. The first time I tried, I just went for the simplest, the easiest one, according to their standards that I could get. So just AWS certified developer, associate. And actually, the first time I tried, I failed by one question. And my thinking at the time was that I just want to have something that says that I know something about AWS, a service that's used, a lot in the industry. And I had to study hard. I had to learn a lot of stuff for that. Obviously, now I look back and I go, yeah, okay, that's a pretty simple certificate to get. But at the time, it was definitely very daunting. I didn't know a lot of the stuff, and I had to learn it. And yeah, it wasn't until the second time around that it all came together, and I ended up being AWS certified with associate developer.
I guess let's raise the obviously technical parts of being software engineer, but I guess let's talk about your actual tips. How did you like break into this IT industry? So what really helped you to keep yourself motivated and keep going?
So the number one thing that kept me going was making myself accountable. So I kind of ended up in this situation where, well, I would set goals. I've always been kind of a goal-driven person. And kind of obviously, the big goal is to get into, get a job as a developer. But you kind of have to take that back, pare that back and break it down a little bit as well, make it smaller, more achievable goals. And so every small achievable goal every time you get one of those, you feel like, yeah, I got a win. That's awesome. And it helps you to go forward and keep pushing yourself to go more and more and more. And so, one of those goals, like I just mentioned, was to get AWS certified. Um, Obviously, I had to try pretty hard. I failed the first time, and I had to go back and do it again. But certainly, when I did get it, I suddenly felt like, wow, that's amazing. I got it. I got something out of that. And the other key thing as well is, like, in order to hold yourself accountable, is that you basically have to tell people. You have to go out there and talk to people and go and tell people what it is that you want to do. Show them that you want to do it as well. And there are different kinds of people out there, as I learned in my years in hospitality, and there are some people out there who just want to, they want to beat you down and they want to laugh at you and make fun of you. You don't need those people in your life. Cut them out. You want to surround yourself with people that help you out, people that help push you forward, help drive you towards your goals, and people that support you.
And I really like that you obviously put here as well, tell people your plan out loud. And I think it's something that a lot of us forget to do. Like we make some plans and goals, but we keep them to ourselves. And if we're not keeping ourselves account to other people, it's kind of often easy to change our goals as well. You're like, oh yeah, no one knew about my goal. I just quickly change it. But
Yeah,
once you actually start telling to other people, you feel more like responsible. You feel like, okay, so I've already told this and this, that's it, I'm gonna do it. So you have this external motivation as well. Not only internally you're motivating yourself, you have this external motivation because you already told people that you're planning to do it.
Yeah, that's right, 100%. And the other thing that it gets for you as well, actually, which is a huge win, is that it helps create opportunities. So by you telling other people what you want to achieve, not only do you now feel accountable because they're now, you feel like they're expecting you to achieve it, but these other people are also, through the grapevine or through whatever they're doing, hearing about potential opportunities and passing them back your way. So telling people things not only keeps you accountable, but it also creates opportunities for yourself.
And so how did you actually went to getting like your really like first job? Like how did you land this first job? Because I feel like everyone, especially who's listening, feel like, it's just so hard to land this first job. Like I don't have experience. So what was your journey? How did you land this first job?
Well, so my very first job, like I just said, I told people what I wanted to do and I created opportunities for myself. So through telling people that I really want to be a developer and I'm working on this and I'm working on that and I really want to be coding and I love coding and here's this problem. Eventually somebody came back to me and said, hey, I've got a friend. They're looking for a junior engineer. Why don't you have a chat with them? So I went and had a chat with them. Obviously jumped at the opportunity. Went and had a chat with them, had a coffee, and they said, yeah, okay, well, you can come and join us. That was great. That was awesome, and I was really excited. And I thought, okay, this is going to be perfect. So it was a contracting role, and I was going to be working initially just one day a week, while I still had a day job somewhere else, at a restaurant. So I'm going to be just working one day a week, and then we were going to gradually build up to be working full time. And I was going to be working just with the CTO. So I was going to get a lot of learning, a lot of hands-on experience, and really fast track really quickly. Also, I thought. So it was really cool to get that first opportunity. But here's the really big thing. After about 6 weeks, they actually turned around and decided, well, we don't have the capacity for someone so junior and we're going to have to let you go. So my first job came around really quickly, but it kind of slipped through my fingers just as quickly too.
And what was the second job?
The second job took a little bit longer to come around. The second job, so I applied I was living in Wellington, New Zealand at the time, and I would have applied to about 130 different companies in Wellington, sent out my CV. I had all these things. I had my reservation app and I had my blog, and I didn't have my AWS certificate yet, but I'd put on my CV that's what I was working towards. I applied to all these companies and I had loads and loads and loads of responses. Many of them said, no, not now. But I did, out of those 130, get about 10-ish first interviews. And of those 10 interviews, I probably would have got 6 second interviews. So I was getting a lot of interview practice. It was great. And in the end, I can't quite remember. I think I did get offered a job, and I turned it down. So I actually turned down the next job that I got offered because it was going to be only remote. The other people were going to be working random hours. It wasn't going to be very structured, and it didn't seem like it was going to be a really good fit for me to get a lot of learning and get a lot of experience, which I knew as a junior I needed. So I think it is really important to try and to pick and choose and understand what situation you're in and what you are capable of as well. Probably if it's your first job, you do actually need quite a lot of support. Maybe if you're a little bit more senior, you can spend a little bit more time on your own. But certainly that was kind of important. Out of that same batch of job interviews, I did actually get offered a second job that was going to, again, it was going to be great. It was going to make everything amazing. So it was going to be a hospitality-based system, and it was going to be customer service transitioning into a development role. So it was going to be kind of 50-50 customer service and development, and slowly transitioning into full-time development. And they'd kind of verbally offered me the job and said they'd get the paperwork to me by the weekend. The Monday came around and they had never got back to me. So I called them and they said, no, actually, we changed our minds. You're not getting the job anymore. So there's I know this story's taking a long time because there's a lot of ups and downs. But yeah, probably, there you go. There's three kind of potential opportunities and I still don't have a job. So I took a break for a while actually, and I spent a little bit of time focusing on trying to get this AWS certificate, because once you've exhausted your resources, you kind of need to take a break and then come back to it. You can't just continue on forever, banging at doors that are closed. So yeah, I went out, I got my AWS certificate, and because I'd been keeping up to date all of my online portfolios, Indeed, LinkedIn, Seek, like all the profiles, I've been keeping them up to date. I don't really know how it works, but I'm guessing you kind of get filtered more to the top every time you make an update or a change to your portfolio. So eventually I did get AWS certified, and I updated all my portfolios straight away. I was so excited. Went out drinking that night. It was a good weekend. And the very next day I had an email in my inbox to say, hey, I've seen your profile and I want to meet you. We're gonna pay for a flight. We're gonna fly you up to Auckland. We're gonna send you a taxi. We're gonna have you come in and you're gonna interview and meet the team. What was that?
And sounds like simple, but I guess I want to make a point. You send like 130 whatever applications to get to this, and I think sometimes that's when people get discouraged, because they think like, oh, like I sent 20 and I haven't heard back, and like, what should I do? But I guess it's like a great example here, a great story in terms of like you just need to be persistent. If you like set the goal and you're trying to achieve it, you keep going. And I'll tell you a quick tip. Yes, on Seek, every time you update your resume portfolio, when recruiters go to Seek, We often filter by recently updated, and the recently updated come to the top. So for everyone who's listening, yes, update your Seek profile. If you're still looking for a job, go to Seek and update your profile, because your resume will go on the top if you're doing it. So good point. So keeping everything up to date, definitely like one of the big tips. We have a few questions, Selena, from the audience. Jason, have a few more. Here we go. How did you go about telling people? Was it going to events, conferences, posting things on social media, talking to friends, or just people coming across your blog?
It was basically talking to anyone who would listen. So I wasn't going to conferences too much at that time. I did try to go to a few meetups and events. I'm kind of, I suppose, a little bit socially awkward. So when I go to events, I'm not very good at starting conversations, but certainly if conversations come up, I'd be there. One or two drinks though, and I can't stop talking. So I kind of
now I know the secret.
I kind of found myself at parties, events. People would have drinks or whatever at a bar or a club, and somehow because I've been talking about it all night, I eventually end up finding the only other developer at the place, and just telling them I want to be a developer and here's all the reasons why I want to do it, and just chewing their ear off for hours at a time. Obviously, they didn't hate it because they were listening. But anyone who will listen.
I'm curious, like, you were working in the hospitality at the time as well. Would you just talk with like people who come along in the restaurant as well?
Not so much, no. I suppose I was juggling a lot of things. So I was running a restaurant during the day. I was training with kickboxing in the evening, and I was coding all night. And on my weekends, that was my time to socialize. I spent a lot of time. I would talk a lot to my friend Tom and other friends as well, who I met along the way. I'd be constantly messaging them to say, "Hey, I'm stuck with this thing," or "Hey, I'm thinking about this other thing." Or, I suppose, yeah, Tom kind of, he ended up being my mentor, whether he wanted to or not.
Yeah, and I guess it's also the great tip. I guess finding the mentor is really, really important. And I guess, Selena, it's in a way, it's been like some kind of luck that the Tom come into your life, but it doesn't mean that it's any luck involved in these guys, because finding a mentor is actually not that hard. There is a lot of people there who will be happy to share their experience. It's just a matter of reaching out to people and ask the right questions and be curious and be like, like asking the smart questions as well, asking the questions that people make people think about as well. So we had a whole live stream about finding the mentor to accelerate in your IT career. So if you go back to the channel, you can have a look at this one. But I think it is definitely something really powerful in any industry, having this person who can guide you in a way, who've been through the journey and can really answer your questions when you need to.
Yeah, I just want to touch on that as well. There is absolutely no such thing as luck. Well, I mean, absolutely. There might be a tiny smidgen of luck, but it's all you creating opportunities for yourself. It's all you holding yourself accountable, all you showing people how credible you are and how credible you can be, and talking to people. I can't stress that enough, because those opportunities come from people knowing that you're a person who might be interested in something. And it comes from you getting out there and finding things that you might be interested in as well.
Michael have some question. I guess we kind of touch on a little bit on it as well. What gives you the energy to keep going? Why not give up with so many failures? Are you failure driven?
I am failure driven, failuredriven.com. That is my blog. Failure driven. Sorry. what gives me the energy to keep going? Yeah, it's a really good question. I get asked that a lot, and I don't really have a very good answer for it. Um, I just I think when somebody tells me I can't do something, and when I tell myself I can't do something, I kind of like to prove that wrong. I think throughout my life, I've often been the underdog. Um, I think definitely for the last 5 or 6 fights that I've had, kickboxing, I've been the underdog. When I go away to to other states or other countries, obviously I'm not the person who's known, so everyone kind of expects that I'm going to just crumble. Um, my recent title fight, I was definitely the underdog. There was definitely an expectation that the other girl was going to win. Um, Largely because of popularity, I think, actually. I'm not very popular, but I'm okay with that. I think, yeah, I mean, there's nothing I can't do if I try hard enough and I really want to do it. So just because you had a failure one time doesn't mean you're going to fail again. It means that you can learn from what you did wrong. I made a mistake and I didn't get AWS certified, but I only lost by one. I only failed that test by one question, and it's not the end of the world. It did feel like it at the time, but you kind of think about it. You go, well, what did I do wrong? Okay, maybe I just need to study a little bit harder. You pick yourself up and you try again. And same with coding. I guess this happens every day actually in my job. We're faced with problems. We need to solve these problems. Sometimes the first solution that we come up with, it's not the right solution, and we have to go back and we iterate on it. And it's like that in life as well. It's like that kickboxing, with coding, with trying to change your career, with trying to get any job. I suppose people at uni studying. Sometimes you're going to fail a test. You don't just quit the whole uni just because it was hard. People have kids. They probably make mistakes if you've never had a kid before. You don't just quit and go, oh well, I'm not taking care of that kid anymore. Yeah.
And
I don't know how else to
definitely,
explain
like,
it.
yeah, definitely. I guess that's a concept that we can apply for like anywhere in our life. And I guess you summarize it here as well. Like, don't give up. Setbacks are expected. There is no such a thing as a luck. We already mentioned before that we're creating our own luck and we're creating opportunities. At the end of the day, it's just taking responsibilities for your life. You can call it luck if you want to, or you can call it coincidence if you want to, or you can say that you are in control of it and you actually create this opportunity for yourself. So there is a lot of, I guess, internal perception, how we can look at those things as well. It's not only this external perception of us, it's how we want to interpret these situations in our life and get the best out of it. So obviously, it will be all these setbacks, no matter how smooth things go. Setbacks is just part of the life, and you can't avoid them. You can't avoid the unavoidable in life, and it's worst things you can do.
Yeah, exactly. You kind of have these ups and downs, and when everything's going good, you ride the wave, and when it comes down, well, you just get ready for the next wave.
And I guess coming back to the point, how to you like break into an IT industry. I think all this, the first thing, no matter what you're trying to do, you need to set the goal, and that's what we talk in the beginning. You need to have your goal in mind. Like how you get to this goal, it's a next step. But if you don't have like the original goal, it will be really hard to get there, because if you want to get from Melbourne to Sydney, at least you have a goal. You want to get to Sydney. If you go there through Adelaide, that's the different story. But at least you know that you're trying to get to Sydney, not to Perth. And that's a thing with anything, with like your career, like or as you mentioned, like with the study or anything. The first step is always make sure you have a clear goal, and then you will be taking the steps to achieve this goal.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm just thinking what else we haven't mentioned. I think it was like a few other tips you wanted to share with us. We kind of already probably mentioned most of them. So is there anything else you would like to add from your tips?
Well, yeah, I mean, like I said, I think the main thing is just talk to anyone and everyone who will listen. If you really want to be a developer, you will be a developer. If you don't really want it that bad, well, why are you even trying now? Don't want to
Do
be
you think it's
discouraging,
any
but
like like predisposition, like not predisposition, like do you need to have a particular skills to decide to be a developer? Like, you know, do you feel like for some people it may be just not a good idea at all?
well, for me, I guess if I think about the things that I do in my day job, the main thing it all comes down to is problem solving. People are presenting me with problems, and I'm trying to come up with solutions for those problems, or I'm trying to find out what the problem really is, and then I'm trying to find solutions for those problems. So if you're not interested in problem solving and you just kind of want to be told what to do or what to type, I don't think software engineering is for you.
We have one more questions while we were talking. Sorry, I don't know your name. Nothing here. Not sure. Not sure what's your name. Please share in the comments what's your name so I can. Not gonna call you nothing here. Is there a point where age become an issue? The stereotype seems to be that no one will want to take you once you hit middle age, especially with no experience. What do you think about it, Selena?
So what I think is
It's a
how do you
question
get
from
to be
Adam.
middle?
Thank you, Adam. Adam is
So,
asking.
so what I think is how do you get to be middle age and have no experience? Potentially you get to middle age and you have no coding experience professionally, but you have a wealth of other knowledge and experience. That's super important and super valuable to software and especially to modern software companies and especially as we're starting to progress and we're starting to think more future forward and starting to think about more diverse thinking. I would I would hate to work in a company that only ever hires young developers who only ever have an IT degree and that's it for their experience. They'd have nothing else going on. Because you've got um, you've got a group of people who have nothing have nothing else to kind of lean on. They've got no previous experience to lean on. So I don't know that there is a stage where age becomes a problem. Maybe if you're, maybe if you're not in good health at 60, I probably wouldn't recommend going out and working. Maybe if you're pushing 80, you probably don't want to. But certainly in the ages around, I guess middle age is like 40, I suppose. If you decide you want to change careers and you've got some other experience and you are interested in being a developer, I don't see there's any reason why you can't do that. I certainly have met many people over the last few years that I've been here in Melbourne who are older than me. I don't know if that counts for much, but they are older than me and they have successfully changed their career. You potentially, I don't know how biased every single company is out there, so maybe you do have a harder time. Who knows? Certainly, I wasn't a spring chicken when I decided to move into IT. I was getting much closer to 30. So, yeah, I think you have a huge amount of other knowledge and other life experiences that are also really, really valuable.
I think there's a great quote about it. When you're starting something new, you're not starting from scratch, you're starting from experience. And I think that's something important to remember. And that's exactly what you mentioned. You have some sort of experience. Yes, maybe it's not a coding experience, but it's some sort of experience. And you can lean on your previous experience because again, Selena, exactly what you said. It's about problem solving. Have you solved the problems in your current industry? Like what you there is so many parallels. Like soft skills is still really important. Even if you like software engineer, it doesn't mean that you don't need to have any soft skills, so it is something that you can already it already can be your advantage. And also domain knowledge as well. If you've been in another industry, you can start looking for some, IT jobs, but in this domain. And exactly what you mentioned, Selena, in your journey was some hospitality companies that were like interested in your experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And certainly that's given me the edge at Fresho. So Fresho is all about the fresh food industry, and it's all about the supply chain, supply and demand of fresh food, between restaurants and suppliers and wholesalers. And me having restaurant experience, I know what it's like actually to deal with that on the receiving end from one side. And so that is part of the bonus, for Fresho hiring me, and also part of the bonus for me having already some domain knowledge, when I came into the code.
I think Michael have some comment as well. A lot of your early learnings was pretty hardcore, like C programming. Most boot camps teach cut and paste style programming with Rails attacks. Or a third of focusing of hardware programming was those framework.
Well, so obviously I didn't know much better at the time, so I was kind of just did what I was pointed at. I think now, having talked to people who have done boot camps and gone straight to Rails, I actually think some more of this quote hardcore programming early on is, probably really beneficial, because I've talked to a lot of people who have gone and done boot camps. They've learned Rails straight away. Rails is fairly high level, I would say, framework, so they don't necessarily, well, they found it hard to grasp concepts and to understand what's going on under the covers. So there are certainly some particular things that people can go and read up about and go and learn a little bit about. So those things are, things like, linked lists. What are linked lists? How do they work? Binary trees. What do they work? What are they? How do they work? How do you traverse a binary tree efficiently? What are pointers? What's a pointer in a node? That will come in handy when you're looking at linked lists. Uh, you know, basic low level things like, I suppose I don't really need to know now binary hex conversions or von Neumann architecture, but it is valuable to have learned some of that stuff and have some of that background before you dive straight into Rails. And certainly I would even recommend, a little bit of C, and possibly some Ruby before going into Rails. Obviously, Rails is a framework written in Ruby, and it can be confusing for new people to understand that, is this method a Ruby method or is it a Rails method? Because they both look like Ruby, and I can't tell whether I'm using the framework or whether I'm using the language. Certainly, I did start. The very first language that I used was Assembly 68K, and that is extremely low level. And that, I feel like that gave me a really, really good understanding of pointers and nodes, and it made things a lot easier when I started moving up the stack.
Jason's asking, when do you stop cut and pasting?
I think, well, the very first program that I wrote was a dice game, and there was definitely no cutting and pasting for that. That was all me writing that one out. That was some assembly language. Then I moved on. I wrote a chat server in C with my friend Tom. We wrote that together, so we paired on that, and there was no cutting and pasting there either. We then moved on to Ruby. I downloaded the Coens. So if anyone's interested in learning Ruby, look up the Coens. You could download that. There are some small challenges in there to help you learn how to write the code in the first place. There's no cutting and pasting there, but certainly, once I decided to attempt to build an online reservation system and move to the Rails framework, I think that's where the cutting and pasting began.
So it didn't stop there, it's actually started there.
started there. But now I only cut and paste code that I've written before.
Makes sense. Selena, I think we can talk for ages, but we're already hitting like a 50 minutes mark of our live stream. I guess it's time to wrap up. Guys, if someone have a quick last question, you can quickly post it in the comments before we wrap up. Just before we finish up our live stream, I just want to quickly remind you, obviously, that I'm going live every Wednesday at 5:30 p.m. So next week we have a heavy topic. Next week we're going to talk about choosing the right DevOps tools for your team with Anton. So anyone who's interested in DevOps, please join us next Wednesday at 5:30 p.m. Melbourne time. So it's 10th of November. So, and we're gonna, dig into DevOps topic then. And also, if you enjoying watching this video, if you get some value, make sure to hit this like button. Obviously, if you're not liking my videos, I get discouraged, I need some sort of, positive reinforcement so that there is actually someone listening and someone enjoying it. So make sure, give me some love by liking this video and joining my meetup group as well if you would like to be notified about new speakers and new events that I'm running. So now I have my guest speaker scheduled till 8th of December, so you can check our schedule on the YouTube channel or meetup group. Obviously, please subscribe and all these things, what you're doing. So all the general stuff. So I think Jason have a last question. Okay. So you mentioned that learning theory things first would be good. That sounds like a computer science degree. What do you think about pursuing one?
So I kind of mentioned earlier that I have no desire to pursue a computer science degree. If you're really into that, I mean, why not? If that's what you really want to do and what you really want to have. I think, if it was me, I would not pursue a computer science degree. You're going to end up spending 4 years. You're probably going to learn a lot of stuff. You're going to have a great time. You're going to go to some awesome parties. But that's 4 years before you actually get to be a real developer. Paid professional. So I suppose for me, I definitely wanted to get into the industry as quick as possible, to fast track my learning as quick as possible. And I didn't think a uni degree was the way to do that. I think some amount of theory things would be good. I suppose the question is, where do you find what theory things to learn? That's a bit of a hard question, a harder question. I did give some pointers just now of some of the things that I looked up and learned. It's probably the main things that I looked up and learned in terms of theory. But yeah, I say just dive into some code. I do recommend a little bit of theory, a little bit of low-level programming, and a whole lot of just coming up with projects and trying to make them work.
Perfect. So I think, that's kind of where we're stopping today. So it's I think great tips here, Selena, and I think it's encourage everyone who ever thought about, starting career in IT. Maybe it's, encourage someone after listening to this video to actually set the goal, make yourself accountable, and create your own luck. So start telling people that you're actually going to be, developer, not necessarily developer. There's a lot of positions in IT. It doesn't need to be software engineering. There is obviously less technical positions there that, you can break into as well. I think Tony Robinson always say, if you want to win the lottery, just go and tell everyone that you already won the lottery and just already tell everyone how you're going to spend the money from the lottery. So I'm not sure that, we need to go to that extreme as Tony Robinson does, but basically the idea is there. So, paint yourself a picture, set the goals, and yes, it will be some setbacks. as Selena said, but don't make the setbacks to stop you. Don't give up and create your own luck. So Selena, just before I say bye to everyone who's joining us, I'm going to put you on the spot and I'll ask you for your favorite inspirational quote. Do you have one?
Oh my God, oh my God. I did think of I did think of this the other day and it's gone. No.
You can just to say it in your own words. Doesn't need to be the actual quote. Something that
No,
inspires you.
you really have put me on the spot. Um,
I like doing it with these people, with the people. Make the show real,
yeah, make it really real. I'm sorry, I
So,
don't have one.
do we have like call to the friend or audience help? Michael, can you write Selena's favorite quote while we're thinking?
Yes, do it.
I guess we mentioned a lot of quotes, Selena, during our live stream already. And I think the one that really resonated with me today was one about the experience. And you're not when you're starting something new, you're not starting from scratch, you're starting from experience. And I think you really demonstrated with your journey and how you kind of turned your all experience with hospitality and kickboxing and how you actually apply this experience to pursue your goals. Here we go. Michael, share your favorite quote. Here we go. Perfect, Michael. Okay, so I think that's the best note to finish today's stream. Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us for the whole hour. Go enjoy this rainy evening in Melbourne, and we'll catch you next Wednesday. Thank you, Selena.
And thanks.
Thank you, everyone.